Thank you for joining us on 15 News at 5. I'm Jessica Burns.
And I'm Blake Harms.
Overnight, a pedestrian was struck by a semi on the State Road 49 LaPorte Avenue area. The call came in to the Valparaiso police at around 1:22 a.m. The victim is a white male in his late teens or early 20s with blonde hair, a thin build, and about 5'10" in height. Now, we do have some new details. Police learned the victim was staying with his parents at the Hampton Inn in Valpo. His parents say he walked away from the hotel prior to being struck. Now, according to police, the victim was already lying in the road when he was struck. He was transported to the Porter Regional Hospital and then airlifted to South Bend for further treatment. Police do not believe the driver of the semi was under the influence of drugs or alcohol, but if you do have any information on this event, the Valparaiso Police urges you to call them at 219-462-2135.
Well, over the past several weeks, we have brought you information on the issues and changes to dining services from the perspective of students and administration. On Monday, dining services held an open forum for students to voice their concerns.
What stands out in my mind is the rice and the beans, and they would literally have been crusted over, and then they would take the scoop and they'd mix the crust in, so I would be breaking my teeth trying to eat rice. And it's just, I don't know, like even just mixing it up, and they add water, and it's just a matter of it's been sitting there all day. I don't know when they put the rice.
Now, is that a particular station, or are there several areas where it's cold?
That's everywhere.
Everywhere? Okay.
I know at the beginning of the year, I saw many changes with the food quality, with stuff that was open, and I, as a student, and as much as I'm paying, then it was extremely frustrating that happened in the first place.
Yes.
In the cafe now, the prices are posted, so it's hard to tell how much you're spending when you can't find a price tag anywhere.
Can I ask you specifically, is it on food items or store items?
Both, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
With that, I go and ask the cashier how much it is. I know that they're short for time and it's a grab-and-go place, but.
Some of it is training, some of it's just, reviewing it a little more carefully, make sure things are where they're supposed to be. There's always room for improvement in anything anyone does, and if people are willing to sit and civilly listen to each other, it makes all the difference. We may not have a great answer for everything, but I think we found some areas we can experiment a little bit in, and we want continuing feedback on those sorts of things. There are some things like labeling a little better, some things like maybe a little better staff training, and maybe paying a little more attention to hygiene and what needs to happen. That's also a training issue. Those are things that I think can pretty easily be turned around. But in the next week or so, we're going to put a response together, and that'll be available for everyone. We will also send it to the parents' page, whatever that is, and because some parents had expressed some concerns, we want to make sure that they get the information as well.
October holds more than Halloween and midterm stress. It's also Hispanic Heritage Month. VU's Latinx in Valparaiso for Excellence shared their culture with the campus community last Friday with their annual Hispanic Heritage Month dinner. We sent Nate Randall and Perry Larrett out for a closer look.
Every year we have this dinner. So like last year it was about Puerto Rico. This year we decided to do a theme of words and expressions, and we do it every year because it's kind of our closing event for Hispanic Heritage Month. So Hispanic Heritage Month starts on September 15th all the way to October 15th. So it's just our little closing off for Hispanic Heritage Month.
We had Jose Olivares, an aspiring poet, performer, and author from Chicago, come and present some of his latest work from Citizen Illegal, his new book, which has various poems that discuss his status as a second-generation immigrant, and in conjunction with the status of his parents, which are immigrants from Mexico.
My parents are Mexican, who are not to be confused with Mexican Americans or Chicanos. I'm a Chicano from Chicago, which means I'm a Mexican American with a fancy college degree and a few tattoos.
It's important to celebrate variety because it's important for diversity. As the late poet Maya Angelou said, that we're more alike than we're different.
This past Sunday, the Valpo chapter of Phi Mu Alpha held their annual Christopher Patterson Memorial Music Festival in the Union Ballrooms. The event featured bands such as VUTV, Acapellas, and Stop, Drop, Rewind. The festival was dedicated to one of their fallen brothers, Christopher Patterson. Army Specialist Christopher Patterson was a student at Valparaiso University who took leave from his studies to serve with an Indiana National Guard unit in Afghanistan during Operation Enduring Freedom. He was a sophomore music education major, so having a music festival in his honor was all too fitting. All proceeds from the event went to the Christopher Patterson Scholarship Fund.
VUTV would like to hear from you. Every week we will post a new poll and announce the results during the next 15 News at 5. This week we want to know, are you dressing up for classes on Halloween? Head on over to our Facebook or Twitter page to vote. The results will be announced next week. Every year at this
Speaking of
time,
Halloween, we're almost through the month of October, and we are just now seeing leaves starting to change colors. But how do the leaves change color every year? 15 weather meteorologist Jessica Burns has more.
Every year at this time, we see green trees turn into yellow and orange masterpieces. But how do these little guys change color the way they do? Well, it's about chemistry.
Leaves contain the pigment chlorophyll. This allows them to receive energy from sunlight through a process called photosynthesis. Chlorophyll is also what gives leaves their green color. During the summer, we receive more sunlight, so leaves absorb more energy. As we get closer to fall, the amount of sunlight we get decreases. Since there's less sunlight, leaves are absorbing less sun. This causes the green chlorophyll to turn transparent, and when this happens, oranges and yellows peek through instead. Fall leaf color depends on the type of tree. Yellow and orange leaves pop out on aspen, birch, and maple. Trees that turn red in the fall tend to be dogwoods and oaks. Color intensity depends on how the month of August played out. According to the Farmer's Almanac, the best fall colors occur when August is sunny and cooling gradually, with not too little, but also not too much rain. An August that is hot, cloudy, and super rainy or dry will produce dull fall color. Now here in Northwest Indiana, our August stacked up to be about 2 degrees warmer than average and 1.14 inches above normal precipitation. Now this could lead to us seeing less colorful trees this fall. For VUTV, I'm 15 weather meteorologist Jessica Burns.
And speaking of weather, we had a wild weekend here with rain, hail, and snow. Meteorologist Katie Nicolau is in the studio today. Katie, any interesting weather on the horizon for us this week?
Well, I'll tell you what, this is going to be a nice break for the next 4 days because I'll tell you what, Saturday, that was a little miserable if you wanted to walk outside. You're getting pelted in the face with rain. Next thing you know, you're getting stones of ice. It was a mess. But luckily right now, we're sitting comfortably in the low 60s. Some areas to our south, like Pontiac, Joliet, sitting more in the mid 60s, but could be worse. Could be up in Michigan, suffering through the 50s. So we'll take 63 as it is. Looking across much of the region, they're feeling the same way. That cold air that we saw has already pushed out into Canada, so we're sitting comfortably 60s, 50s across much of the board. You even see Omaha sitting at 72. They're very lucky because we're still sitting in that nice green 60-degree temperature range. Taking a look at the radar, there is absolutely nothing on the radar, and that's much of the story for across the region. And I'll have more on that when we come back for the weather block.
Thanks, Katie. The death of a missing journalist has people raising questions. Hear what Saudi officials have to say coming up.
Plus, thousands of people were affected by a healthcare security breach. We have more on this after the break.
What is passion? At Valpo, it's something that pours out of us uncontrollably. It's a late night shot of caffeine, cramming for finals, a jam session with friends. It sees deep into space, turns big stuff into small potatoes, floats boats and floods the senses. Passion is alive, it has a heartbeat, and it lives in you. How do we know? Because at Valpo, passion is who we are.
Well, I think that's all we need. Thank you so much for coming in. We'll be in touch.
Okay, this is it. Just shake his hand and walk out with your head held high. Don't mess this up. Thank you. Nailed it. Don't let a bad handshake get in the way of getting the job you want. Find out more at the Career Center.
Mixed reactions across the world this weekend, one day after Saudi Arabia acknowledged the death of a missing journalist, Jamal Khashoggi. Nearly 3 weeks after they say he left the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, the Saudis say Khashoggi was killed in a fist fight inside the consulate. But as Kim Hutcherson reports, the new Saudi explanation is raising eyebrows here at home.
Killed in a fistfight. That's the narrative the Saudi Arabian government is painting about the death of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Officials finally announced the Washington Post columnist's death on Saudi TV, saying it all began as a discussion between Khashoggi and consulate personnel.
She led to arguments and hand-to-hand fight with the officials and Jamal Khashoggi, which exacerbated the situation that led to his death.
The Saudi government says 5 officials were fired and 18 other Saudi nationals have been detained. It's unclear whether these 15 persons of interest are among the groups seen on this surveillance video, coming and going from the consulate. President Trump says the Saudis' explanation of what happened is credible.
I do. I mean, it's early. We haven't finished our review or investigation, but I think it's a very important first step.
However, lawmakers on both sides are less accepting.
The Saudis very clearly seem to be buying time and buying cover.
In a tweet, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham responded, saying, quote, "To say that I'm skeptical of the new Saudi narrative about Mr. Khashoggi is an understatement. Several investigations are still underway, but some U.S. lawmakers say the evidence is clear."
Our intelligence agencies are increasingly confident that the Crown Prince himself is culpable here.
A Russian who allegedly worked on funding online propaganda efforts to manipulate voters in both the 2016 and 2018 elections was charged with a federal crime Friday as a part of a wider conspiracy to hurt American democracy. Elena Huzyanovit, 44 years old, of St. Petersburg, Russia, is charged with conspiracy to defraud the United States for managing the financing of the social media troll operation that included the Internet Research Agency, which Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigators charged with crimes earlier this year. CNN's Fred Pleitgen reports from Moscow.
Well, by all accounts, this seems to be the first time that the United States has indicted a Russian national for allegedly trying to meddle in the 2018 midterms. Of course, in the past, there have been indictments for alleged interference in the 2016 presidential election, but this seems to be something new. Now, the person in question is a woman named Elena Huzyanova. She's apparently the chief accountant for a group called Project Lachta. That's essentially a troll factory operating out of St. Petersburg, and according to this indictment, this troll factory was trying to create fake social media aliases, trying to start activism group, anything to undermine the political process leading up to the midterms in the United States. Now, the Russians have since come out and they have issued a statement denouncing the indictment and essentially saying that Russia has nothing to do with any of this. The statement comes from the deputy foreign minister. It reads, and I quote, "We have repeatedly said that this is a shameful, slanderous campaign. It is dictated by the desire of some American politicians to gain advantage in their inter-party quarrels, at the same time put pressure on Russia. Nasty means are in use, including what are obviously fabricated criminal cases containing absurd accusations and a ridiculous base of evidence." Again, that coming from Russia's deputy foreign minister. It's interesting to read the indictment, though, because the woman who's indicted is mentioned as someone who apparently was fairly important to funding these operations. But again, the U.S. says that behind all this is a very powerful Russian businessman who allegedly very close to Vladimir Putin named Yevgeny Prigozhin, who has a big business empire here in Russia, and some of his companies have also been indicted by the Mueller probe in the past. Fred Pleitgen.
Tens of thousands of people had their personal information exposed after a hack of a computer system that works with healthcare.gov. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, says there was an exposure of about 75,000 people through the direct enrollment pathway. The portal allows agents and brokers to help consumers with their applications for health care coverage in the exchanges. CMS, in a statement, says accounts exposed by the hack were deactivated and the direct enrollment pathway disabled. Suspicious activity in the computer system was initially investigated on October 13th when the breach confirmed 3 days later. A CMS administrator says open enrollment, which begins next month, will not be impacted. Officials say healthcare.gov and the Marketplace call center are still available to customers.
Well, once again, there was no winner in Friday night's Mega Millions drawing, but that just means the big prize got a little bit bigger. A new world record, in fact. The jackpot now has reached an estimated annuity value of $1.6 billion. The estimated cash option is over $900 million. The next drawing will be tomorrow night. The previous record Mega Millions jackpot was $656 million, and it was shared by winners in 3 states in 2012.
Now, we expect holiday season to be hectic, but residents in Ashwaubenon, Wisconsin, never imagined a turkey could add so much to the chaos.
Standing at about 4 feet tall and weighing roughly 20 pounds, the turkey, known locally as Smoke, deliberately makes its way across the intersection of Morris Avenue and Hilltop Drive.
Right now it's just one. There used to be like 7 or 8.
Yeah.
So, but there's just this one, and he's making it known here in Ashwaubenon.
The turkey can be curious, checking out cars parked on the side of the road. But a bicyclist riding by can send the bird into chase mode.
I just know it runs after people, and actually one of my neighbors, it always runs after his car when he goes to work.
The bird can block traffic too. Jim Keys stopped his truck in the middle of the intersection.
Try to get him out of the road so nobody kills him.
What do you think of all this?
Madness, crazy. It's really hard to believe that they're in the city.
But the birds are in the village, and with sightings piling up, the turkey has gone viral. A Facebook page documents dozens of encounters with the bird. He's known as Smoked Turkey, mayor of Ashwaubenon. What is the nickname that they call him?
The mayor of Ashwaubenon.
Yeah, what do you think of that?
That's a good name. He acts like he owns it.
During the commotion, a public safety officer arrived. He coaxed the turkey to trail him out of the intersection and away from the neighborhood.
After the break, Katie Nicolau will have your full forecast.
Plus, we'll take a look at this past week's Crusader sports. Stick with us.
Good morning, Valparaiso University. What's a better way to start your day than with a new jam? And WVUR has just what you need.
But if you close your eyes, does it almost feel like nothing changed at all? And if you close your eyes, does it...
If dying young won't change your mind, baby, 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 right.
Broadcasting sports, news, weather, and music on air, online, and on campus. WVUR is my jam.
All right, we have some great weather headlines coming up this week. Looking right now, constant cool temperatures, that's what we're seeing. And we also have sunny skies for the rest of the week. Showers this weekend, though, that'll bring a damper on all that we're going to be seeing for this week. Now, taking a look at the temperatures right now, 63 in Valpo. Some temperatures are adjusting right now. You see, sticking right around the 60 mark, so not too bad. When you look out regionally, we do have a nice swath of just 50s, 60s. That's where most of us are sitting. Not really in the 30s anyway. That's all up in Canada right now. Some lucky areas like Omaha and North Platte, Nebraska are sitting right around 70 though, so I'm a little jealous right there. Looking at current wind speeds, not really all that much compared to what we saw over the weekend when we had gusts up to 50 miles an hour. Right now in Valpo, we're only at 8, so it's not too bad. Could have a slight wind chill later on tonight as those temperatures dip down into the range where you can start feeling a little bit chillier when you get that cool breeze on you, but for now, we're seeing pretty nice. Looking at the radar, not all that much. There's a little bit of precip popping up in the UP of Michigan, but for our area, we're sitting really dry with nice sunny conditions. Now, here's a really cool thing that I noticed on our radar. You see these large patches of just green. That's not rain, that's actually just the radar picking up on ground clutter, like birds or houses or anything of the sort. So that's a really cool little tidbit I wanted to show you. Future radar, much of the same, nothing much. For future temperatures, however, we're still going to be seeing lows right around 40 going through the next few days. We're going to have highs back up into the 50s and lows in the 40s, much like tonight. 40 degrees on the nose, winds at 9 miles an hour. As we go into tomorrow, 52 degrees, sunny skies, so that'll take the bite out of the cold temperatures. Looking at the 7-day forecast, you can see mostly in the 50s. Not much to complain about there as we don't have any sort of hail or snow or anything in the forecast. That chance for precip on Sunday and Saturday, that's where you might want to bring an umbrella.
That's nice to know. I'm glad winter didn't make an early comeback. Thanks, Katie. After the break, we'll recap this past week's Crusader sports.
Well, I think that's all we need. Thank you so much for coming in. We'll be in touch.
Okay, this is it. Just shake his hand and walk out with your head held high. Don't mess this up.
Thank you. Nailed it.
Don't let a bad handshake get in the way of getting the job you want. Find out more at the Career Center.
Well, Crusader fans, we're back for another week of sport recap, so let's dive right into the action. The volleyball team earned a 3-1 victory against the in-state foe Evansville at the Arc Friday night to improve 6-3 at the midway point of the Missouri Conference play. Sophomore Allie Cummings led the set and set a new personal best of 16 kills. The Valparaiso volleyball team advanced to an impressive 5-1 in the Valley and 18-3 overall with a 3-2 win over Loyola on Friday night. Saturday night at the Arc, for a second consecutive night, the team hit the 20th win milestone, sweeping another in-state foe, Indiana State. You can catch the volleyball team at the Arc against next Monday against Missouri State, first serve set for 6 p.m. And down 17 points on the road against Morehead State with 10 minutes to play, the Valpo football team knew they had to score in order to have a chance at winning. Valpo cut the deficit down to 7 points and had the ball with 1:15 remaining on the clock. Their efforts came up short when Morehead State made an interception in the final minute to seal a 31-24 win over Valparaiso. The Crusaders will return home Saturday to take on Drake at Brownfield, kickoff set for 1 p.m. And the men's soccer team added a 4th game to their unbeaten streak and picked up another point in Missouri Valley Conference standings Saturday night. The Crusaders took Brownfield against Central Arkansas, playing to a 2-2 draw. Both of our goals came in the second half of the game, but Central Arkansas was able to itch their way back into the game, scoring 2 of their own goals. Valparaiso will be back home Saturday, November 3rd for a 7 p.m. kickoff against Drake. And the women's soccer team was unable to close an early 3-0 deficit following on the road against UNI Saturday. You can catch the Crusaders for their final home game of the season Thursday. Kickoff set for 4 p.m. Looking nationwide sports, Michigan beats Michigan State. Ohio State gets slaughtered by Purdue. Chase Elliott wins his 3rd NASCAR race of the year.
Well, that is definitely a lot in sports. Thanks,
Yes.
Blake. After the break, Katie will have a look at the weather.
VUTV, your campus, your story.
As far as the weather goes, I have to say I don't have much for you. We're going to have temperatures right around 50 for the next 7 days. Chance for showers on the weekend, but that's about it.
Absolutely beautiful. Thanks, Katie. From Blake, Katie, and I, thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you next week on 15 News at 5.